There comes a moment in every man's life when the mirror becomes unbearable, not because of what is seen, but because of what is not. You see the reflection of someone who was supposed to be sharper, stronger, and more focused. But years of distraction have dulled the blade. The phone becomes the new sword. The mind, once capable of silence, now trembles with noise. This is where our story begins, with a man who has everything he needs, yet nothing he respects. He wakes up tired, scrolls before sunrise, promises change, and breaks it before noon. He talks about goals more than he walks toward them. And beneath all of it, there is a quiet, painful truth. He is not weak because he cannot fight the world. He is weak because he cannot fight himself. But this weakness is not the end. It is the invitation. For within the ashes of self-disgust lies the path every warrior once walked. The path of Bushido, the ancient code of inner mastery, honor and self-discipline. Today we do not speak of swords or battles of blood. We speak of the battle within. If you are ready to confront the person you have become, stay until the end of this film, and comment below the habit you want to master. Because today, we turn weakness into the beginning of something sacred. His name is Kaito, a 27-year-old man living in the heart of a restless city. He wakes each morning with good intentions, journaling, gym, and work. But by midday, his focus dissolves into notifications and endless comparison. The world has trained him to chase approval, not purpose. Each time he fails to follow through, a voice whispers inside, "You are not built for discipline." He believes it. Days blur into weeks. Promises pile up like unread messages. He scrolls through motivational videos, admiring men who seem unbreakable. And then, in a single moment of honesty, he realizes something brutal. He has become addicted to the idea of change, but allergic to the work required. That night, after another day wasted in distraction, he walks outside. The city glows with artificial light, but the sky is empty. He feels small, insignificant, forgotten. But in that stillness, something calls to him. An old video, a documentary about the samurai, begins to play on his phone. He hears one line that freezes his breath. A samurai does not seek motivation. He seeks mastery. Those words pierce him. They are not a quote. They are a mirror. The next day he searches deeper. He learns about Bushido, the code that guided the samurai for centuries. Courage, honor, integrity, self-control. These were not traits. They were vows. Kaito feels a stirring inside. For the first time in years, he senses direction. Not toward success, but toward strength. Not toward fame, but toward respect for self. He decides that night, he will no longer live like a man who hopes. He will live like a man who trains. The awakening has begun. Bushido. The way of the warrior. It was more than a moral code. It was a way of breathing. To live by Bushido meant that every action, even the smallest, was a reflection of the soul. A samurai was not trained to fight enemies. He was trained to conquer himself before sunrise. 7 virtues formed the core of Bushido. Gi, integrity. Rei, respect. Yu, courage. Meiyo, honor. Jin, compassion. Makoto, honesty. Chugi, loyalty. But the essence behind them all was discipline. Quiet, relentless, internal discipline. In the ancient dojos of Japan, young warriors were taught that strength without virtue was rot. They rose before dawn, bowed to the silence, and began their training. Not to impress, but to become. Modern neuroscience would later echo this truth. Discipline reshapes the brain. When repeated rituals replace impulsive choices, new neural pathways form, a process called neuroplasticity. The samurai discovered through experience what science would later prove. Consistency is transformation. Kaito reads these teachings with growing intensity. He imagines himself in that dojo, surrounded by stillness and purpose. He begins to realize Bushido is not ancient history. It is timeless human architecture. So he makes a decision. He will rebuild his mind in the image of Bushido, not through violence or pride, but through devotion to daily mastery. He writes on a piece of paper and tapes it above his desk. Bushido is not what I do. It is who I am becoming. He feels something shift. Not motivation, conviction. And as he goes to bed that night, he understands the truth. The battle is no longer against laziness. It is against forgetfulness, the tendency to forget who he is trying to become. Change does not begin in silence. It begins in chaos. Kaido starts his mornings at 5. The city still sleeps, but his body resists. The warmth of the blanket becomes the first enemy. His mind negotiates, just 5 more minutes, but he remembers Bushido. The warrior acts, the coward delays, so he stands. Every step from bed to desk becomes a small victory. He meditates, breathes, and writes his vow, honor over comfort. Yet the battle is far from over. The day floods in with noise. Friends invite him out. Deadlines pile up. His phone vibrates endlessly. Old habits whisper, "You deserve rest." Inside him, 2 voices clash, one craving ease, the other craving excellence. This is the internal war every man must face. At the gym, when his muscles burn, he wants to quit. But he remembers the samurai who trained even when no one watched. At work, when he is distracted, he recalls that Bushido teaches respect for the task, the time, and the present moment. Each act of discipline feels like drawing a sword in defense of his future. Each victory, small but sacred. He begins creating rituals. A cold shower at dawn, journaling before screens, silence before sleep. These become his modern katas, daily forms of mental combat. And as days turn to weeks, something inside him changes. He no longer says, "I am trying to be disciplined." He says, "I am becoming a warrior." The internal war continues, but now he knows, weakness is not the absence of strength. It is the absence of resolve. Kaido begins to structure his life like a dojo. He sets a fixed time for everything. Wake, train, read, create, rest. No more relying on mood or motivation. His choices are now pre-decided. His schedule is the sword that protects his focus. At first, the resistance is brutal. His mind rebels, craving the old rhythm of chaos. But he remembers what neuroscience says. Repetition wires the brain. Discipline, repeated long enough, becomes identity. So he continues. Each day, the noise of temptation weakens. His focus sharpens. His mornings feel sacred again. He starts seeing small victories. He finishes what he starts. He looks people in the eye without guilt or hesitation. The shame that once lingered begins to dissolve. He reads that the samurai believed in pre-decision, to decide in advance how to act, no matter how one feels. To them, discipline was not suppression. It was liberation, freedom from confusion and hesitation. He applies this truth to his own life. When the alarm rings, there is no debate. When the workout hurts, there is no argument. Action has replaced emotion. And with that, something beautiful begins to emerge. Calmness. He realizes that true strength is quiet. It does not announce itself. It simply endures. His transformation is no longer about achieving goals. It is about alignment, living in harmony with his own word. He does not chase the future anymore. He respects the present enough to master it. That is the warrior's way. But the journey does not rise endlessly. A sudden storm hits, illness, exhaustion, travel. The structure breaks. For days he misses his routines. The guilt returns, whispering, "See, you have not changed." For a moment, he believes it. He feels the gravity of weakness again, the weight of self-doubt pressing on his chest. But then he recalls a passage from a samurai journal. Continuity without gap. This is the essence of mastery. He realizes what it truly means. It does not mean never failing. It means refusing to let failure define the rhythm. So he acts. Even in sickness, he writes one line in his journal. Even in fatigue, he meditates for 1 minute. The point is not perfection, it is persistence. Slowly, he rebuilds his momentum. Not as a man returning to routine, but as a warrior refusing surrender. Modern psychology supports this too. Studies show that returning quickly after a setback prevents identity decay. It keeps your self-image intact, and that is what Bushido teaches. Honor is not in victory. It is in how one stands after defeat. Kaido returns stronger, quieter, and wiser. He learns that mastery is not found in streaks. It is found in the refusal to stop walking. And in that realization, he conquers something far greater than laziness. He conquers despair. Months pass. The rituals that once felt like effort now feel like nature. Discipline has become instinct. Kaito wakes up before sunrise, not because he must, but because he is. The body moves without hesitation. The mind, once filled with noise, now breathes in silence. He walks through the same city, but the world looks different. The lights no longer blind him. The noise no longer controls him. He carries peace where chaos once lived. People begin to notice. They ask how he changed, expecting a hack or secret. He simply smiles and says, "I stopped fighting the world. I started training myself." Bushido has taken root in him. He does not seek praise or recognition. He understands now that the warrior's greatest victory is invisible. The quiet mastery of one's mind. Science calls this identity integration. When habits are no longer actions but expressions of who you are. The samurai called it oneness. The point where the sword and soul move as one. Kaito feels that peace. He no longer needs to remind himself to be disciplined. He simply is, and in that stillness, he understands the essence of Bushido. To win the outer battles, one must first win the inner war. He is no longer weak. He is no longer trying. He has become. The journey from weak to warrior is not about perfection. It is about alignment, becoming the person your soul already knows you can be. You will fail. You will fall. But as long as you rise with honor, the path continues. Remember this. Bushido is not a rule book. It is a reminder that strength is not loud, discipline is not punishment, and courage is not the absence of fear. They are all acts of love, love for the person you are becoming. So as you close this story, ask yourself, what vow will you make to yourself today? And more importantly, will you keep it when no one is watching? Because the true war is not out there. It is here, between who you are and who you could be. Comment below the one habit you will master. And if this journey spoke to you, subscribe, not for more videos, but for more reminders of who you truly are. In the words of the samurai, victory is not found in battle. It is found in the silence after.